آزادی بیان،
言论自由，
free speech.
So the work that we did was entirely absorbed by Google practices, and that's why as something that has become a ordinary way of dealing with this removal links doesn't appear anymore. It's like something that has become ordinary way, ordinary procedure by Google officials. So I'm not surprised that they don't refer to it again and again and again. It's like when you go to a doctor, you ask for advice, you do what the doctor says, and then you get fine. And you don't keep telling people, oh, that's thanks to the advice. Well, no, problem solved, now you move on. I think what Google is also referring to is a slight twist that we have seen recently, way after our work. And this was further pressure from the European Union, especially from France, to implement a global delinking. This means that if, for example, a French citizen requires some links to a piece of information online that he or she finds harmful to be removed, and that request has been accepted, well, just a few weeks ago, the normal procedure would have been for Google to assess, in case accepted request, remove the links from not only the French version of Google, but from all European versions. It is a very recent decision by Google to go a bit further because of the pressure that has been exercised also from France. This further step, which is a rather novelty, which of course we didn't have to evaluate because it wasn't present last year, is the following. Very recently, Google will remove not only those links from all search engines in Europe, but will also block access from people in the region where the request has been made to any other version of the search engine that is not European. Now, this may be a little bit confusing, so perhaps I can explain. The same French citizen now, in the past, had all the links removed from the French version of Google and all the links removed from any European version of Google. As of today, there's one more step. Anyone else in France will be unable to have access to those links, even when these links are still available on, say, google.com. Of course, people from Germany will still be able to have access to those links, etc. So there's a regional approach to block in terms of IP address that further enhances the protection of the individuals in question. I believe that Google at the moment may not inform webmasters, but this changes almost on a daily basis, and also changes depending on which information venues we're talking about. So I'm afraid that the question doesn't really have a fixed answer. In terms of my own preference, I'm much more in favor of transparency. I think the people who have legally provided the information online should be legally informed that that information is no longer available in terms of search engine online for that region or for that particular individual. I would rather err and make a mistake in favor of information transparency than vice versa. So, in my view, Google is doing something to fulfill the transparency request. Could do more. You can always do more. I mean, you could provide more details, more finely grained details. One can go on the web pages and check the percentage, the regions where some of the requests are coming, the sort of areas, say social media, where the requests are more likely to occur. There's certainly much more than could be acquired in terms of details. I have two doubts. One, whether extra information would be of any use? Do we really know, for example, or do we have to know the gender of the people asking for the removals? And the second doubt that I have is, a company is supposed to comply with the legal requirements. It's supposed to comply well, in full, possibly spontaneously without being forced. Anything else that company, whichever company provides, is up to the company. And honestly, Google is not required to provide any information whatsoever about the links removed. It's only supposed to remove the links. So I'm already satisfied by the fact that it provides some information. Of course, critics will always ask for more. The final risk is that we need to protect the individuals whose requests have been accepted. It would be ironic if we ended up by infringing their privacy in the name of privacy. Since you phrased the question in terms of a should rather than does it, then I would like to say it shouldn't. It does, and I think that this is a strange predicament in which we have placed ourselves. The juridical and political power have tried to regain control on some aspects of our lives online by further empowering a private company in terms of making decisions about how this private personal information should be handled. It's almost paradoxical that in order to do something, we are achieving almost the opposite. The future, but it's a bit of a utopian future, is one in which the socio-political power regain full control of our social lives. We are not the citizens in charge, and the entities that control the flow of information are accountable not in terms of how much money they make, but in terms of whether they can be voted again in a few years. Since accountability is not there, I am disappointed by the fact that actually Google has so much more power now than it had before.